Live stream is posted and we're set to begin at 1.
All right. Good afternoon. As Vice Chair of the Commission, I call this meeting of the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission to order at 1 o'clock. This Zoom webinar is being live streamed to YouTube, www.youtube.com/MICHSOS office/videos. For anyone in the public watching who would prefer to watch via a different platform than they are currently using, please visit our social media at Redistricting MI to find the link for either viewing on YouTube. Our live stream today includes closed captioning. We have ASL interpretation available for this meeting. If you are a member of the public watching who would like easier viewing options for the ASL interpreter on your screen, please email us at redistricting@michigan.gov and we will provide you with additional viewing options. Similarly, members of the public who would like to access translation services during the webinar can email us at redistricting@michigan.gov for details on how to access language translation services available for this meeting. Translation services are available for both Spanish and Arabic. Please email us at redistricting@michigan.gov and we will provide you with a unique link and call-in information. People with disabilities needing other specific accommodations should contact redistricting@michigan.gov. This meeting is being recorded and will be available at redistrictingmichigan.org for viewing at a later date. This meeting is also being transcribed, and those transcriptions will be made available and posted on redistrictingmichigan.org, along with written public comment submissions. Members of the media who have questions before, during, or after the meeting should direct those questions to Edward Woods III, Communications and Outreach Director for the Commission at woodse3@michigan.gov or 517-331-6309. Members of the media should have his contact information. For purposes of the public watching and for the public record, I will turn to the Department of State staff to take note of the commissioners present.
Good afternoon, commissioners. When I call your name, please unmute yourself, indicate where you are attending the meeting remotely from. Doug Clark.
I'm present and I'm attending the meeting remotely from Rochester Hills, Michigan.
Juanita Curry.
Present, and I am remotely attending the meeting from Detroit, Michigan.
Brittany Kellum, Rhonda Lang,
Present, attending remotely from Reed City, Michigan.
Anthony Ede, Steve Lett,
Present, attending from Lee County, Florida.
Cynthia Orton,
Present,
And-
attending remotely, attending remotely from Iowa County, Iowa.
thanks, Cynthia. MC Rothorn,
Present, remotely attending from Lansing, Michigan.
Rebecca Zatella,
Present, attending remotely from Wayne County, Michigan.
Janice Villette,
Present, attending from Highland, Michigan.
Aaron Wagner,
Present, attending remotely from Eaton County, Michigan.
Richard Weiss,
Present, attending remotely from Saginaw, Michigan.
Dustin Witches.
Present, and I am attending remotely from Ypsilanti, Michigan.
There are 11 of 13 commissioners present. There is a quorum.
Thank you very much, Sally. As a reminder to the public watching, you can see the agenda at redistrictingmichigan.org. I would now entertain a motion to approve the meeting agenda.
So moved.
A motion made by Commissioner Lett.
Second.
Dustin, was that you? Seconded
Yes,
by
ma'am.
Commissioner Witches. Motion is moved and seconded in favor of adopting the agenda. All in favor, please raise your hand to so indicate. And all opposed, same sign. Okay, the motion carries. Motion is adopted and the agenda is adopted. All right, thank you. We will now review and approve the meeting minutes from the last meeting. Now, we actually have two sets of meeting minutes today, so let's start with April 15th first. So are there any edits to the April 15th meeting minute? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the April 15th, 2021 meeting minutes.
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Lett. Do I have a second? I see a second by Commissioner Curry. All in favor, please raise your hand to so indicate. All in favor of adopting the April 15th meeting minutes. All opposed, same sign. Okay, the motion carries. So the meeting minutes from April 15th are adopted. Let's move on to the April 16th meeting minutes. Are there any edits proposed to the April 16th meeting minutes? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the April 16th. MC, is that your motion? Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Rothorn and I have a second by Commissioner Clark to approve the meeting minutes from April 16, 2021. All in favor of approving the meeting minutes, please raise your hand to so indicate. All opposed, same sign. Okay, once again, the motion carries. The meeting minutes from April 16th, 2021 are adopted. All right, moving on to the next item on our agenda is public comments. It's my understanding that we do not have any, or I'm sorry, that we do have public comment today. A few notes of public comment for those of you who are joining us for the first time. Because this is a virtual meeting, members of the public had to sign up in advance to address the commission. Staff at the Department of State will unmute each member of the public for up to 2 minutes on a first come, first served basis. This means members of the public will be called on in the order in which they signed up to address the commission. To those members of the public participating in public comment, please note that you will have no more than 2 minutes to address the commission this afternoon. You can also submit your thoughts to the commission and the public by emailing redistricting@michigan.gov. The Department of State will provide your written thoughts to the commission. By indicating in that email that you would like to submit your written comment as public comment, it will be included in the online meeting archive for the commission. Public comment sign-up links are also posted on Redistricting Michigan's social media pages at Facebook and Twitter at redistrictingmi. Now I would like to recognize Sally Marsh, Michigan Department of State Director of Special Projects, who will call on members of the public to address the commission.
Thank you, Commissioner Zatella. Individuals who have signed up and indicated they would like to provide live public comment to the commission will now be allowed to do so. As a reminder, after I call your name, your screen will change and you will rejoin the meeting as a presenter. Then you will need to turn your sound and video on before you make live public comments. If we unmute you and you have some issues, whether audio or otherwise, we'll move on to the next person in line and try to come back to you. And if that audio still doesn't work at that point, or you're still experiencing technical issues, you can email the commission redistricting@michigan.gov, and we can help you troubleshoot for the future. So first in line to provide public comment is Marjorie, and I apologize in advance if I mispronounce anyone's name. Marjorie Sarbaugh Thompson. Please allow a moment for our staff to unmute you. Please unmute yourself. Thank you. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I'm writing about an issue that is often called the prison gerrymander. It involves the way that the census collects data about people who are incarcerated. It lists the prison as their address. And given the nature of the crime patterns in the state of Michigan, an awful lot of those people who are incarcerated are from urban areas of the state, but yet the prisons are located in rural areas of the state. So by counting those people as living in rural areas, it artificially inflates the population in rural districts and it deflates the population in urban districts. So it's sort of an urban-rural kind of equity. I provided written testimony that has a map that shows the effect of this. There are 2 congressional districts in the state of Michigan that have 7 prisons in each of those districts. There are a total of 18 prisons out of the state. So you can see that a huge percentage of the people who are incarcerated are actually being allocated to 2 districts. One of them is the 1st district, which is the congressional district, which is the Upper Peninsula. The other is the 7th, which is down along the Indiana border in the middle of the state. Both of those are very rural districts. And roughly half of the prisoners in our correctional system come from Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb counties. So it's a very urban population that's being moved to another part of the state. The maps that I provide give you a little bit of sense of that. The written letter that I submitted also points out how this sort of tallies up the beds in these different correctional facilities so that you get a sense of how many people are being moved around. It's the case for state house districts, for state senate districts, and for congressional districts.
Thank you. Please conclude your statement. Your 2 minutes has elapsed, and thank you for addressing the commission. Next in line to provide public comment is Dale Milford. Please allow a moment for the staff to unmute you. Mr. Milford, please turn on your camera. You may begin.
Good afternoon. Hi, my name is Dale Milford, and I'm a pastor in the Farmington Hills area in the United Methodist Church. And I've learned that I have the privilege of living in a district that is nationally famous as one of the top 10 most gerrymandered congressional districts in the whole country, and that is District 14. Now, I'm no political, so I didn't find this out by being part of any political action group. I was at a PTA meeting a few years ago, and we were talking about how, okay, let's talk to our congressman or woman, as the case may be. And here I am in the same school district, only to discover that someone like a surgeon doing an appendectomy had parceled out the town of Farmington, if you can see on the map behind me, that little dot up there, pulled that out, so out of our school district, so that the accompanying district, I think it's District 11, could get their, I since learned all the most fascinating things about the Cook Partisan Voting Index, brought District 11 up to R+2, whereas before it was leaning in the direction of Democrats. And by virtue of this, they were able to hold on to that seat for the next 8 years until the previous election. So it just occurred to me that this is so counterculture to what this country was based on, rep by population, instead of getting away from the fiefdoms of the barons of Britain and land barons of Europe. And it recalled to my mind that we had fallen prey to that and become nationally infamous for having done just that kind of thing. Doing a little bit more, I would leave by saying I was especially taken aback by a piece of
Thank you.
email.
The 2 minutes has concluded.
Okay,
Please conclude your
I've
statement.
said as much as I can. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for addressing the commission.
Yeah, thank you. Before we move on to the next public comment, I noted that Commissioner Eid has joined us. So if he could let us know where he is attending remotely from, I would appreciate it.
Yes, my apologies. I'm having some internet connectivity issues. Virtually attending from West Bloomfield, Michigan today.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our final public comment participant for today is Juana Quezito. Please allow a moment for our staff to unmute you. You have 2 minutes.
So my name is Buana, and I have been to Michigan once. I've been to Detroit. And so when we talk about redistricting and
Excuse me,
yes?
we're unable to hear you.
Oh. Can you hear me now?
Faintly, if you can please talk louder.
Yes, yes. So can you hear me better?
Yes, even louder would be fantastic, but go ahead, 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you so much. So my name is Buana, and I've been to Michigan. I've been to Detroit once. And, you know, when we talk about redistricting and gerrymandering, you know, I just want to make sure that it's going to help the people of Michigan, you know, since, as you know, a lot of things are going on, you know, in Michigan. There's the problem of the water in Flint, Michigan. There's Detroit, you know, that's been abandoned. You know, there are great parts in the state of Michigan, but there are also parts that have been left behind. So when we talk about redistricting and all that political stuff, you know, whether it's Democrat or Republican, it's really not important. What's important is, you know, the people, and the people of Michigan cannot be left behind and forgotten. So I just want to make sure that as the debates go on and everything is happening, the people of Michigan are really taken care of in this process. Thank you so much.
Thank you for addressing the commission. That concludes public comment this afternoon.
Thank you. Executive Director Hammersmith, do we have any correspondence that we need to address?
Not at this time.
Okay, may we have the Executive Director's report?
You certainly may. I just muted myself in between. Good afternoon, commissioners. I wanted to give another update on our negotiations with consultants. So the VRA legal counsel contract with Federal Compliance Consulting is ready to go out. The mapping contract with EDS is almost finalized, and we hope to get that resolved this week. And then after the contracts are extended, there is a 5-day period where there's a notice of intent to award posted. And other bidders who have bid on these contracts can make objections. If they don't, the signed contract goes into effect 5 days later. So there is a really good possibility that both of these contracts will be in effect by the time we meet next week. Other than agenda items, that's all I have today. So I'm going to move to our icebreaker. And that question is, what must your work environment have to make you feel engaged and contributing? And I'm going to start with Steve today.
I don't exactly know, but I can tell you what I've had for my entire career. That's a nice reclining chair in front or in back of a desk that clients in front of me talk to. So I guess that's what I at least am used to.
Okay, comfy chairs are important. How about you, MC?
My work environment with my it's office work, and so an emergency chocolate drawer has been very important for those emergencies that do arise.
Okay, that sounds pretty good to me. Commissioner Zatella, how about you?
Yeah, I feel like this is a tough one, but I would say just feeling like my bosses are listening to kind of the rank and file and people who are working there, because I think that ability to have feedback is useful in any office. It makes you feel like you belong.
Okay, makes for a good environment. Yes. How about Commissioner Villette?
Well, I'm going to go along with Steve, and it's a good chair.
Okay. Commissioner Wagner?
Peace, knowing my purpose and why we're all here and achieving progress, I think would make me feel engaged and productive.
I have to agree with that. Commissioner Weiss?
I guess I would like hopefully a neat, clean area. All the tools or equipment needed to do the job and have the ability to do what I need to do.
All important, yes. How about Commissioner Witches?
Say a team of people that have your back, basically, no matter what. Open communication. So if you need help, they'd be willing to help you, and then you'd be able to help them if they ask for it as well.
Teamwork is important, that's for sure. Commissioner Clark?
Yes, I looked at it from a work perspective, and to me, what makes me feel engaged and contributing is it's a challenging environment. The work is challenging itself rather than mundane from day to day.
Okay, that sounds like you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Curry?
I kind of thought that maybe a good chair and to be able to have the ability to work this computer when it wants to mess up, so I can get everybody, hear everything, and be able to work it if it mess up.
Technology is great when it works, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. Commissioner Eid?
Yeah, this is a good question. For me, I think just it's as simple as buy-in from whatever organization I'm with at any particular time. I think there needs to be buy-in from the top to bottom and all of all the members of the organization for whatever goals that we have.
Okay. That's important. Okay, I'm going to move on to Edward.
Thanks, Sue. For me, I would like to have a place that appreciates heterogeneous thinking versus homogeneous thinking.
Makes a lot of sense. That's, we have such a great diverse commission that I think we're getting that result here. And Julianne, how about you?
Thank you. Good afternoon, commissioners. It's good to see everyone. I would say for my answer, it would be a collaborative environment where you can discuss the work, and also good lighting. I do a lot of reading, so the lighting is very important.
Okay. Yeah, that is important. Especially for over 40 eyes, which some of us have, not all. And I would say purpose and passion for the mission. That's what I need. I need a purpose and those goals to work towards. So I know that we have a great team and we're all working together. And I thank the commission for acting in that direction. So back to you, Commissioner Zatella, to move on with the agenda.
Thank you very much. Does the Department of State have a report? Looks like we've got some updates today.
Good afternoon again, everybody. I do have an update today. And so want to briefly update you on the public comment online portal that we have been talking about for several months now. You know, as you know, we started to procure and develop an online portal where members of the public could submit their comments to you, whether maps or written comments, and it will be ready to go before your public hearings start in May. So it'll be ready in early May. And as a refresher, just on some of the key elements, it will allow members of the public to submit their comments sort of all in one place to you, and allow for the export of both individual files and summary of multiple files within a given time frame or of a given location. And so I'm here today to provide an update. I'm going to show you the progress so far, answer any questions you have, and get any feedback that you all have before it really reaches its final stages and is ready to be provided to you all and to the public. And so I want to say again, the very major caveat that what I'm about to show you is not a finished product, certainly not a finished product, but it's still in development, which is partially why I wanted to show it to you today, to see if you had any questions or any pieces of feedback for us. All of the finer details are still being worked on, but I wanted to help you visualize it and sort of show you the progress that's being made. And so as you can see on your screen here, Moon Duchin, who's the executive director of MGGG, you've met her before, the nonpartisan organization out of Tufts University, developing the portal for us with a team of tech developers, is also here today to answer any questions that you might have that I'm not able to speak to. So with that, if you just give me a minute to do a screen share here, we will get moving. All right, can you see it? Great.
Yeah.
So thanks, Commissioner. So here's really, again, sort of an initial landing page, providing a welcome to people and providing them some more information about what written testimony might be, or what a districting plan is, or what a community of interest is. If someone wants to actually submit that public comment, they would just scroll down and have a couple of different options. So they could map a community of interest, right? They could draw one for all of you and submit that. They could also do a district, either a complete or a partial district map. And clicking on those links, I'll show you what happens with that in a second. But once they, let's say they either already have their map or they've got written comment they'd like to provide to all of you, which is what we're sort of used to so far, they'll keep going on to this submission part of the portal. And the couple of key things here, they can provide their own title. And as you can see, it's able to accept many different file types and links. So community of interest, districting plan, written testimony, another link from another website, which we know people are going to be using, right? There's several different places people can either, write or draw maps. Uploading a file, so people who do shape files or have other files, PDFs maybe, they'd like to provide to all of you, can upload that file. And then also comment on another submission as well, which would be that tag. This is sort of, I'll explain this sort of adding tags to the submission in a second. But in addition, people can, as they do now, fill in whatever information they'd like to about who they are when providing this public comment to all of you. Then this is the part that I think is exciting for all of you and for the public as well, is to be able to see in real time any submission of public comment. And this view is still being adapted, but the essential kind of key points about this are that you can scroll and see in a card view, sort of a picture of, oh, that's about where this map is about. I'm interested in looking at that region. Let me click there. or it'll indicate that it's written testimony. And then these tags, sort of like hashtags, allow people to self identify key characteristics or key areas that their map is speaking to. So for example, if you tagged West Michigan, you could then, when searching, actually search by, by a tag, for example. And if there was a tag that was used by a map with that tag, it would show up. So I'll try UP here and see if it, so there's Bob's district map. He submitted something about the UP. And then you can actually click on that and you'd be able to see more information, again, still in development, but you'll be able to see more information both about the submission itself here on the side and then anything else this person wrote. And then if someone wants to submit a comment on that map, you would see those here. So all in kind of one place for each submission. You can also see in list view, so I'm going to unfilter, hopefully there'll be many members of the public who submit to all of you. So a list view will hopefully be helpful in looking at many at once. There'll be other sort of sorting elements there, but those are really the key pieces that I wanted to kind of let you all know. When we go back up here, just to show you what would happen if someone comes here to actually draw a map. If you click on this button or click on this button, it'll generate into the same kind of format that you all are actually familiar with because you've used Districtor sort of outside of this public comment portal before yourselves. People can then draw and create any information. And then this sort of share button up here would then redirect the individual to the submission portal as an option so that they can then share that with all of you. So I am going to stop talking, see if you have any questions or big pieces of feedback. But again, just wanted to sort of show you the progress and assure you that we'll have it ready in time for your public hearings.
Okay, I think that looks great. Are there any comments, concerns, Commissioner Lang?
Just want verification, Sally. So the scope of the program is specifically to collect public comment, maps, etc., right? That's the entire scope.
Correct. So as you'll recall, that statement of work that we shared with all of you, I'm not sure the exact month off the top of my head, maybe in February or in March, that really just talked about, anticipating as your secretary, as the secretary of the commission, anticipating the hopefully high volume you'll have and you've already had of public comments, just having one place that you all can direct members of the public to for many different types of comment they might want to provide you, whether written testimony, much of which you've already received, right, in email format. So a place to put that so that we don't have to do the sort of manual transfer process that we've been doing to date. But then also a place where if someone wants to draw their community and submit it to all of you with corresponding information and details, they can then submit it to all of you in this, and it's all kind of there together. So does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Great.
Any other comments?
Commissioner Clark?
Yes, I have a number of questions. I really like what I just saw from you, Sally. I think it's what we're looking for. So here's one question: the tags. Are the tags going to be static, something we develop, or are they going to be something that the end users can also add to?
I'm so glad you asked that question. I'm neglected to mention it. That's something that individuals can create themselves, sort of very similar to a hashtag on social media, for example. So if I wanted to say, this is a community of interest in Grand Rapids, and I wanted to tag it in Grand Rapids. If Grand Rapids didn't already exist as a tag, it would just create a tag for Grand Rapids, and I would be the first person to create that tag.
Okay. Secondly, what I would like to see, particularly with the maps, is a tag on whether it's going to be a congressional map state legislature map or state senate map. I don't know if that's in the plans, but I think it's significant for us doing research.
Absolutely. And I don't know, Moon Duchin, if you wanted to speak to that or the previous question.
Oh, sure. So yes, absolutely. We're planning to have the cards tell you which kind of map it is, for one thing. And also to the tag question from a moment ago, subject to a list of, words and strings that we're going to block because we anticipate the possibility of some problems. As you heard, adding tags that you make up yourself is something that we thought could be, kind of a bottom-up way that people communicate with you. One other feature that we have in there now, and that we're working on developing, is secondary tags. So we think that one way people might interact with other people's map submissions is to view them and add a tag to make them easier to find when you're thinking about particular kinds of plans. So we intend the tagging to be pretty organic and sort of let themes emerge through tagging.
Okay. Now, is there going to be, am I, as a user, am I going to be able to go to some place in the system and see what the existing tags are?
Yeah.
We are, yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Well, just to say the way it's set up now, there's a list of suggested tags already, but as tags get added, yes, it will be possible to search. First of all, you'll be able to search the tags that have been added, but secondly, you'll also be able to search the submissions, not only by tag, but also by their written content.
Okay, great. The other thing, I think this relates to something you were referring to, Sally.
Mm-hmm.
The existing comments we've gotten so far, they're going to be automatically loaded in to the database?
We don't have plans to do that at the moment because all of those comments are already on your website. That's something, if as a commission you wanted us to do, we could try to figure out a way to do that in a comprehensive way. But especially moving forward, we will certainly be using this. And then, we can have a dialogue around the past if you'd like.
Okay. And when we go to public hearings and somebody gets up and speaks and gives their comments, how does that get loaded in?
And I'll start answering this, and then, of course, your general counsel or executive director are welcome to jump in. So this tool is for written comments of a whole variety of types, right? So it's maps, it's files, it's words that are written into the portal itself, but it's not meant to capture the spoken comments that you all will receive in public comment as we do already, or at public hearing. So this is really about capturing that written record and making sure that it's accessible to all of you and to the public in real time.
Okay. Well, when we get into some of the other agenda topics, we'll address how we're going to capture that data and retain it somehow. Okay. Appreciate it. I yield back.
All right, thank you. Are there any other comments? Julianne, I see you have your hand up.
I do, and I apologize. I'm getting the raise hand button today. I haven't had a chance to do it yet. So thank you, Madam Chair, for letting me be old fashioned. So to respond to Commissioner Clark's inquiry and build on what Ms. Marsh is stating, what we're encouraging the people who provide live public comment, which is a critical piece of testimony for the commission, is to capture that in the portal themselves. That way, no staff members from either the MICRC or MDOS are interpreting or shortening or putting any additions or deletions on what that individual was intending to convey to the commission. So the public comment and the ability to interact verbally with the commission is just a key proponent of receiving public comment. But we would definitely be encouraging those individuals to submit that through the tool as well. Hopefully that's responsive.
Commissioner Witches.
So I just went through and looked on Districtor, was trying to figure out like the how to use button and so on and so forth, and the information there isn't really that good. So my suggestion would be, even though individuals could technically find it in the YouTube records for our previous meetings on how to use, my only suggestion would be like a video of some sort that would show them how to use the panel on the right side, because that can get pretty nuanced. So, but that's just a suggestion.
Absolutely. And I think you're underscoring a really important piece of this, which is that once this portal is ready to go, and this is something that your staff and our team has been talking about, as well as just that public education piece and making sure we've got videos and explainers. So absolutely. And thanks for flagging.
Okay, Commissioner Eid.
Yeah, for the most part, I think this looks amazing. I want to just thank Moon and the rest of the MDOT staff for procuring this and putting it together. I do have one question though. Are there any like security measures in place with the system? Like, let's say we get one person who wants to submit like 1,000 different identical maps or something. Is there anything to prevent against that?
Yeah, I am glad you asked that question. And it's one of the things that we've been working closely with the folks in our department who work on security issues and also tech issues for the Department of Technology Management and Budget. So from the beginning with our scope of work and in conversations and in dialogue with Moon and her team, really been working to make sure that the security and the retention and kind of every aspect that we would go through for other state purchases, that we're being consistent about those requirements and making sure that it fits for your needs as well. So there are security measures in place. I'm happy to follow up with more details, but it's something that's been on a priority from the beginning.
All right. Any other comments? All right, seeing none, thank you very much, Sally, for that update. And we will move on to unfinished business, which is next on our agenda. We do not actually have any unfinished business, so let's move on to the first item of new business on the agenda, which is the public comment process. So MDOS process for receiving public comment. Sally Marsh.
Hello again, everyone. I'm like how your staff normally is during meetings, just popping in and out. Anyway, so I'll start off, I think, with this discussion about the public comment, especially at public hearings and the process and what your staff has been envisioning. I'll start, and then the folks, Julianne, Sue, and Edward have also been working really hard on a lot of aspects of this with us. So the memo that you received from the Department of State outlines sort of the processes for receiving public comment at public hearings. And I'll just sort of briefly give an overview for members of the public, and then really just want to answer any questions you have, see what, if the recommendations that are included in that memo sort of fit with your expectations as well. And it's mentioned in the memo, but just to reiterate, this is really a culmination of many conversations that MDOS staff has had with your team in trying to think through all of the different elements of this process. So I'll just quickly talk through it if that works for all of you, and then would love to answer or have a dialogue about any questions or concerns that you all have. So the first page of the memo, and for the members of the public, this is available on the website, michigan.gov/MICRC. So it really just talks about the two main methods of public comment, which is written and live commentary. We've had those already to date, but sort of outlines the fact that for in-person public hearings, there will also be the in-person capability to provide live commentary. So that's really the major addition in terms of methods for providing public comment. And then at the public hearings, of course, written comment remains an important and relevant option for members of the public. And as your general counsel mentioned, anyone who participates in live comment, especially something talking about a map, will be encouraged to also provide written comment to you all. But just to sort of talk through the live commentary piece in a bit more detail, because it's really the crux of some of the recommendations in this memo to all of you. Again, sort of two methods: virtual live public comment and in-person live public comment. So the virtual live public comment would function very similarly to how we've been functioning in these virtual meetings so far. The difference would be that you all are in person and the folks participating virtually are participating through a Zoom meeting virtually with all of you. And there's details about that. Happy to answer more questions there. In-person public comment, a couple of recommendations just to walk through about how that will interact with the virtual public comment. So there's a recommendation that that people who want to provide in-person public comment would be allowed to speak on a first come, first served basis when they arrive at your public hearing venue. So if they arrive at your public hearing venue and they sign up, they would be allowed to speak in the order that they arrive, and they would be allowed to speak before any virtual commenters, because just from a process perspective, that cutoff time to sign up in person would be 8:00 p.m. on the day of the hearing. So your hearings start at 6, 2 hours to still have people coming in and signing up. And then after that point, would invite people to attend another hearing or submit their comments in writing. And then also one of the recommendations here is that virtual public commenters will still need to sign up in advance. There's more details on that in the memo. But as a part of that sign up could also include an RSVP for in-person attendance, so that your staff can get a better estimate of the crowd size and make sure that we're accommodating folks from an accessibility perspective. And then when we talk about speaking order, again, as a rule, as we've been doing, first come, first serve, but allowing those in-person folks to speak first. And then administration, again, it would be the Department of State staff who would be doing, as we do in the background, the facilitation of the virtual comment with promoting people. And that would all be in first come, first serve basis in the order that people sign up, which would be provided to all of you in sort of an Excel spreadsheet. So I'll stop talking and see if you have any questions or feedback or comments from this memo. But again, just want to underscore the series of recommendations after talking through in detail with your team. And so want to make sure we are all in alignment.
Thank you. I actually have one question. Are we planning on putting a time limit on speaking time like we do for the virtual ones right now, where we have that 2-minute time limit?
Yes, absolutely. I don't know if General Counsel, if you'd like to speak to that question.
Thank you, Ms. Marsh. Yes, Madam Chair, the 2-minute time limit is included in your rules. However, as we've discussed in the past, the commission has the ability to modify that as long as it's consistently applied. Correct.
Yep. Okay. All right, Commissioner Clark, and then MC.
Go ahead, MC.
I love this. I think this is getting to where we need to go. This is great. I'm wondering about two things, Sally. First is the idea of accommodation and accommodating individuals in particular. Is it possible or even allowed to sort of request an accommodation in the sense of you don't arrive early enough to sort of get in person, but that you know that you need to be earlier? So the idea that like we would accommodate people who demonstrate a need, and again, demonstrate an accommodation or a need for an accommodation, which might include an earlier time slot, right? So essentially jumping the line. And there's a part of me that it feels hard to administer. So I'm really asking the question about if that's even possible to administer.
I'd welcome your staff to jump in on this, but it would be really difficult to administer. I mean, part of sort of the intention behind talking through all of this with you now, and all of the documents you have to discuss today regarding public comment, is to be really clear about the expectations to the public so that the public knows what to expect. So a big value to the first come, first serve, assigning people numbers, having virtual participants sign up in advance so we can provide them an estimate of where they are in line for virtual comment is part of the value there, is communicating to the public what to expect so that people can participate meaningfully with all of you. And so things that would adjust that would be, I think, complicated, both from an administrative perspective and communication with members of the public.
Thank you. That was my, yeah. And then the only other comment I have or thought is there was an RSVP, potentially we could have people RSVP or could receive an email reminder. I'm wondering if texting may also be an option, if a text message.
What I'll say in terms of text messaging is that that often involves additional software and costs and capabilities in order to mass text people. Your team and our team already have the infrastructure to do email reminders. And so that's why that's what's included here.
Understood. Thank you.
I see your executive director.
Yep, go ahead, Executive Director Hammersmith. Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that on the issue of jumping the line per se, one of the things that we saw from our market research survey last week was the people who responded to the survey want fairness. And I think that's a really important principle to lift, that we want to be fair. And if the rules we've created are clear and people understand that they'll be invited to speak in the order in which they arrive and sign in, I think that's the best way to go. So there's no confusion. And because you can't make judgments about who might get to go earlier than another person, we want to be fair, and we want to be fair to everyone. So that would be my comment in that area.
And there's also nothing stopping people from having those discussions themselves. So maybe someone signs in and they're number 12 and they see a bunch of people in front of them, and nothing would prevent them from saying, hey, does someone mind if I jump in line in front of you? I mean, that literally happens all the time in ladies' rooms, I can tell you that. So I think the public can handle this themselves. If there's some sort of particular pressing reason why someone needs to leave, I think we can trust people to handle that themselves. Go ahead, Commissioner Clark.
Yeah, I have two comments. Both of the subjects have been brought up, but I want to talk about the one Sue just talked about jumping the line. I think we should give some consideration to people that have a physical disability, particularly if we can't get them all into the building and we have to have people stay outside because of health restrictions. I think that should be a prime consideration as we move forward. And then the second thing that I have to mention is Rebecca asked about the amount of time an individual had. I've also read in some of the future documents that we're going to see today that we may give additional time to people that talk as a group, as the point of view of a given group, and give them additional time. So I don't know if that's been determined if we would do that or not at this point. So Sue, yeah, can I get?
Yeah, go ahead, Sue. Yeah.
Yeah, just really briefly, I think if we offer group presentations, we would do it in a different time frame. So, and it would be group presentations for groups that, maybe they have a whole state of Michigan map, and imagine trying to explain that in 2 minutes or less. And it really needs to be in writing on the portal. But there are groups with common interests, with communities of interest, where it may be beneficial for them to have a little extra time. And we learned some about this from the California people. They set aside 2 full days to take in this kind of comment. So we're just trying to think through that. Right now, we're trying to get down the basics of the public hearings and individuals coming in, but we are talking about it and have been talking about it, and we will think through a process for groups to come meet with us.
And what's your thoughts about physical disabilities, people with physical disabilities?
I think that's probably better answered by Edward. I think, we have had some conversation about, for example, if the sign language person is on a screen like we're looking at, there may be some assigned seating that could be closer to the screen for people who have those kinds of needs. So, and also translation, you'll find that in the next policy that we're going to talk about. So, and Edward may have something to add here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. The way the screens and working with MDOT staff is, well, the screen on the left will be the one that we will have that will have the sign interpretation. It will also have the closed caption. And so we'll have reserved seating there. There will be monitor, and the screen on the right will be dealing with the PowerPoint and video reinforcement. The commission will have monitors. The one on the left will mirror the one that has the MDOS Zoom. And then the one on the right will mirror the one that has the video reinforcement and the presentation that's being given in the room. If there's any other feedback or questions, I can help at this time.
Nope. Thank you, Edward. Commissioner Lang?
Sally, can you tell me, for the public that does the virtual live public comment, how far in advance can they sign up? It says that they have until noon that day to actually do it, but when can they start signing up for it?
Great question, Commissioner Lang. So the sign up link would be included in the public meeting notice for every meeting. And also posted to social media. And those are required to be posted at least 18 hours in advance of the meeting. But your staff and the Department of State, we like to try to get those out several days in advance to be far and above the Open Meetings Act requirements. So it would be, well in advance, at least 18 hours, but more on a regular basis. And our current schedule outlined several days, not a week in advance.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other comments? All right, so Sally, are you you're continuing to work on this document at this point?
If the commission is in agreement with the recommendations in this document, that will be helpful for our team and your staff, sort of our collective staff team, to know so that we can make plans according to those recommendations for each of these hearings.
Okay, so you're looking for, are we looking for a vote here that we're authorizing you to proceed with that? I'm just trying to understand what you would like from us at this point. We've seen the memo, I've had comments. I'm just trying to understand, and Julianne, feel free to weigh in and help.
Thank you. I'm having the issues today. So I think the thought is that the commission would be presented with all this information, and if amendments or updates are needed to be made to these draft documents, that the staff would go ahead and undertake that.
Okay.
So I think today was the purpose of discussing.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that clarification. I saw Commissioner Eade raise his hand. Do you still have a comment?
Yeah, I think that most of us are in agreement that this is a good policy. The only thing I heard was that we may want to make an amendment regarding those with disabilities. So how about we talk about that issue real quick, and then we can go from there and approve the whole thing.
Okay, Commissioner Lett, did you still have a comment? You're on mute, Steve.
I was just going to move that we adopt this method and process for moving forward with the public hearings.
I see a motion by Commissioner Lett, a second by Commissioner Rawthorn. Do we want to entertain any changes to it as proposed by Commissioner Eade, or do we just want to go ahead and vote on it at this time? I mean, I don't think it's locked into stone if they want to make changes with respect to disability access. Commissioner Lett?
I was just making the motion to move it along so that if we need to perfect it, we can come back and do that.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's go ahead and move forward. So we have a motion on the table from Commissioner Lett, seconded by MC Rawthorn, with respect to the April 21st, 2001 memorandum regarding methods and process for receiving public comment at public hearings. All in favor of adopting that memo and its recommendations, please indicate by raising your hand. All opposed, same sign. I believe the motion carried. Doug, you're opposed?
Yes.
Doug's opposed and Anthony's opposed. Okay, motion carries. So we have adopted the memorandum. Do you want to move on to the next item, which is the commissioner's roles in the public comment process?
I'm ready if you're ready.
Yep, go ahead.
I see Julianne's hand though.
Go ahead, Julianne.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I just wanted to highlight, as to the disability question, I'm happy to research that and bring that back to the commission on whether I'm very clear on the accessibility and accommodation guidelines, but as to I know we're casually speaking about jumping line, but for some accommodation as to order of speaking, I'll need to bring that information back to the commission. I just wanted to note that for the body.
Thank you. All right, go ahead, Executive Director.
I would also add that the last bullet point on our next document does address that a little bit, but we're going to talk a bit about commissioner engagement with individuals making public comments. So that's the next document you were provided. When we looked at the MDOS rules for the public comment, it seemed to be from the speaker's side versus from the commission side. So we wanted to make sure that the commissioners had a clear picture of their role in the public hearings. So first of all is the definition of public hearings for the public watching. Commissioners all know this, but for the public watching, there are three purposes for the public hearings, and they are to inform the public about the redistricting process, share the purpose and responsibilities of the commission, and then solicit information from the public about potential redistricting plans. So that's our purpose. The commissioners have adopted their code of conduct, their core competencies, their core values. Those are your values to live by, and you are doing that. So we appreciate that from the commission, and we expect that that will continue to happen in the public hearings. The chair will be the entry point for speakers, so the chair will call on people. All the commissioners will be provided scripts. Commissioners will be provided lists of people who are making comments. So we will give you the tools that you need in order to be leading the public hearings. But the most important thing, I think, is this is a listening tour. I mean, really, your goal is to listen to the public comment, take notes if you need to take notes, to remember things that have been expressed. As Julianne said earlier, to encourage people to engage in using the mapping tool. Somebody can come to you and describe their community of interest eloquently, but if you don't know where it is, it's not going to help you in the mapping. So really the reason to engage in communication with somebody would be to make that very clear that, well, thank you for sharing that, but we need to know exactly where on the map you're talking. And probably the best way would be to use that public comment tool that Sally just talked about. And also there's a paragraph on the groups making presentations, but we're going to propose a solution for that. What we're thinking is, rather than 20 or 25 people coming through a public hearing and saying very similar things, if they are a group community of interest, they might be better served by making a group presentation. So we're thinking through that. But one of the things that we need to think through is one comment is just important as 15 on the same thing, or should be probably. or maybe it's a value judgment. So we'll work on decision-making processes going forward so we can better incorporate public comment into your mapping process. So any questions on this document?
Go ahead, Commissioner Lang.
Sue, did we pass procedures before that stated that any member of the commission, if somebody was being unruly, could call up whatever it is for that? Sorry,
Julianne is gonna talk about that. She'll catch that in the next document about the rules and how that applies to the people making comment.
Yeah, there was a rule of, I think it was in the procedure, Rhonda, on that point about people who are being unruly, but we'll let Julianne clarify that. Any other comments? If there's no comments, can I get a motion to adopt the commissioner engagement with individuals making public comment form?
So move.
Commissioner Lett has so moved. Can I get a second?
Second.
Is that you, Dustin? Did you, who said that? Oh, Anthony. I'm sorry, Anthony. Sorry. Seconded by Commissioner Eid. So we have a motion by Commissioner Lett, seconded by Commissioner Eid to adopt the commissioner engagement with individuals making public comment memo that was submitted to the commission for recommendation. All in favor, please raise your hand to so indicate. And all opposed, same sign. The motion carries. The memo is adopted. Thank you, everyone. All right, let's move on to our next item, which is the MICRC Public Comment Guidelines.
And this is Julianne's to take.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair and Executive Director. Let me share my screen. Okay, thank you. We're going to cover the live public comment guidelines that are before you. This draft document notes that the MICRC is committing to inviting wide public participation in this process across the state of Michigan. It notes all MICRC meetings, which include public hearings, are defined as meetings under our rules, are live streamed and include the opportunity to provide public comment. We also included a subsection 11 reminder, which will be helpful for our members of the public that are new to the process and new to our discussions. So again, the reminder for that is it prohibits MICRC commissioners, staff, consultants, attorneys from discussing redistricting matters with members of the public that are not in writing or that they must take place at an open meeting. So there are two exceptions to that prohibition. One is that the comments be provided in writing, or the second that the comments be orally provided during a public comment and open meeting. So that's the focus here. Let's get to the guidelines. These guidelines track the MICRC rules, your procedures, as well as the current public comment process. The highlights, again, and we've gone through this beginning with Ms. Marcia's presentation, and Executive Director highlighted some of these as well. Comments may be provided in person or remotely. Remotely is to accommodate both virtual by the computer or via telephone. They will occur on a first come, first serve basis. I'd like to note again, Commissioner Clark's request for the research on the accommodation. All speakers will be allowed the same amount of speaking time. This can be adjusted by the commission at the beginning of the meeting before the start of the public comment period. Speakers cannot yield time to another speaker or designate a proxy. Due to the pandemic, seating may be limited. So going back to encouraging individuals to arrive early, there may be capacity limits, so people may need to wait outside of the venue and be prepared to do so. So we just wanted to encourage, again, everybody to arrive early and, if possible, RSVP, which does not guarantee a speaking queue, but it gives the commission and their staff an idea of the amount of public comment that will be forthcoming. The guidelines also provide safety and civility guidelines, as well as reinforce our commitment to accessibility. The civility guidelines, again, track the rules of procedure as far as decorum and civility, both between the speakers and the commission. And I believe Commissioner Lang was referencing the decorum between commissioners as well as the speakers and the commission. Those are both uplifted in your rules. The safety guidelines, again, we note temperature checks that are required by venues or local health orders may be required. And I have an amendment to the bullet point. It would be the second bullet point on page 2. I think during our editing, some verbiage got deleted. It should read no, the current language is no banners, signs, bullhorns, or similar devices. The language should read no oversized banners or signs, comma, bullhorns. So I would just like to note that change for the commission as well. And that was concluding the comments, my summary of the document, and I'm available to answer any questions.
I'm sorry, Sue, go ahead. I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to read the sentence that Rhonda was referring to in the rules. It's in section 12.4. It says the chairperson independently or at the request of a member may take action to address remarks in question. And that's about personal or slanderous remarks. So a commissioner can appeal to the chair to address if they perceive remarks to be slanderous.
Okay. Any comments, questions? I am not seeing any. Go ahead, Juanita. You're on mute.
Yeah. I was just wondering, will there be any kind of security at any of these meetings, or we just kind of out there by ourselves?
Commissioner Curry, yes, there will be security, and I'll let Communications Director Woods, if you'd like to provide those details.
Yes, thank you. We will be having security at Commissioner Curry. In addition, we're going to request that we have law enforcement present as well, but we will be paying for hired security at each of the meetings. And that would include not just inside the facility, but also the parking lot as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, if I am seeing no further comments, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
All right, once again, Commissioner Lett. Can I get a second?
I'll second again.
And once again, Commissioner Eid, you guys are on the spot today. So we have a motion to adopt the live public comment guidelines that were provided, motioned by Commissioner Lett, seconded by Commissioner Eid. All in favor, please raise your hand to so indicate. All opposed, same sign. Okay, the motion carries and the memo is adopted. All right, moving on to our next agenda item. Next agenda item is the communities of interest discussion. Sue, were you planning on leading this? Okay.
Yes. Yes, that would be me. I'm going to work on sharing my screen here. So we'll see how this works. Let's start from the main screen. Okay, there we go. Okay. We've talked a lot about communities of interest, and staff has been talking about it along with MDOT staff in our meetings. So just want to share with you where we are regarding the process. I want to let you know that we use Tom Abaco's close-up report to the MICRC and Justin Levitt's rules of redistricting also. So regarding communities of interest. So those were two of the references that we did use. I want to start with our mission, vision, and values, because everything we do, this is the underlying foundation. So our mission, again, is to lead the redistricting process to assure that the congressional, state Senate, and state House district lines are drawn fairly in a citizens-led, transparent process meeting constitutional mandates. Our vision is charting a positive course for elections based on fair maps for Michigan today and for the future. For the public's purpose, they need to know that the maps that we draw will last for 10 years. So it's really important that our work is based on a solid foundation. Our core values are integrity, respect, transparency, and purposeful. So those are our underlying values that this process is founded on. So why are communities of interest important in redistricting? First, to promote fair and representative districts by reflecting diverse communities and their distinct interests. The diverse communities, engaging diverse groups, that's listed in our Constitution. That's something we will follow along with the communities of interest language. Secondly, we want to keep common interest groups intact so they can elect representatives who will be responsive to their unique interests. Third, for continuing interaction, after the public hearing is over, we hope that there are groups that have engaged with each other and engaged in civic responsibilities, and they continue to engage together in the communities where they live. And then lastly, although communities of interest have been used for decades in redistricting, sometimes in a not very good way, this is an open and transparent process for people to self-identify as communities of interest. And this is a new process. Also, communities of interest are important because it's the third ranked criteria in the Michigan Constitution, right after federal requirements for equal population and meeting the Voting Rights Act, and also being geographically contiguous. So not only is it a good thing to do, it is a required thing to do. Our Constitution defines communities of interest as including, but not limited to, populations that share cultural or historical characteristics or economic interest. And then as an aside, or a little bit later, it says communities of interest do not include relationships with political parties, incumbents, or political candidates. So some of the characteristics of communities of interest that have been uplifted include that they are self-defined by local community members. It's not the commission's job to necessarily go out and find communities of interest. It is the work of communities of interest to come to us and let us know they are a community and why they're a community. It is associated with a contiguous area on the map. And communities of interest would typically share common bonds linked to public policy issues or identities that may be affected by legislation. It's likely to result in a desire to share the same legislative district in order to secure more effective representation. So I want to stop talking for just a minute and ask, do the constitutional description and the characteristics of interest in this list explain the concept and help citizens understand whether they would be a conflict of interest or a member of a conflict of a community of interest, or one, maybe one or more, maybe two or three. But is this description adequate so people can understand, so the public can understand?
Commissioner Clark?
I do think the description is very good. There's one thing that bothers me a little about the input that we would get from the community, and that is that we haven't provided them a template that these are the things we're looking for. For example, the community lives between the street and the streets, these streets, or this township or whatever. And so like a small template, nothing big, and that it'll then give them an idea of what we need to proceed. Another example would be what's the population, the approximate population of the communities of interest. I mean, we're gonna, if we end up with 1,500 communities of interest, we're going to have to sort that out somehow and say, well, we're really going to only look at from 400 people up or whatever. But I think those types of criteria that we would ask of them would be important and could be provided on a template of some type. I yield back.
Julianne, I actually have a question for you. Would we be able to impose a restriction like that? Would we be able to limit a community of interest and say, you know, it has to be 50 people or more or anything like that? Are we allowed to do that?
I would advise against that.
Okay.
But I think, but too, I don't want to seem as if I'm being dismissive in any fashion. I think a response to Commissioner Clark's excellent questions and concerns, I think that is the next phase of the slides that the executive director is getting to. But yes, I would a community of interest could be any size, and again, up to people to advocate. You could make the argument that the smaller communities would be easier to incorporate and keep together than maybe some of the larger ones, especially if they cross political boundary lines, which in looking at the list of criteria, you could have communities based on location that could uplift or create some of those potential problems.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Rothhorn, and then Commissioner Lang, and then Commissioner Clark. So let's start with MC.
Julianne addressed it. I think it's the next slide, and these criteria, these questions that we're going to ask that are going to address some of the criteria or the form that I think Doug is referring to.
Okay, Commissioner Lang.
I was playing on Doug's too. In one of the, I don't know if it was the close-up paper or whatever, when they came up with like 1,000 potential communities of interest and it was showing churches. How do you base a community of interest on a church? Is it the location of the church? Because all of the parishioners are going to be at different addresses. And what happens if one community of interest overlaps with another community of interest? So I do think that those are things that we need to sort out.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Lett, I saw you took your hand back down. Are you good? Or do you need a comment still?
Well, I think my only comment is that's what we're getting paid to do.
Mm-hmm. All right, Commissioner Clark.
Yeah, I want to go back to my comment about the small population communities of interest. I think what was in my head at that point in time, thinking about congressional districts, but the state legislature and the state Senate districts are going to be much smaller. So I think, I think smaller populations may play an important part in that. So I would tend to take back what I originally said. Although we're going to have to deal with the volume if we get a significant volume. I still think it's important to understand the population, you know, as part of the template.
I agree. At a minimum, people should specify what the population is they're talking about, because we are going to have situations where we're needing to balance things, and having an idea of the population would be helpful to that. All right, any additional comments? Sue, you had more slides, I think, after this?
I do.
Okay.
So this leads right into this conversation. So my question is, what do you need to know about communities of interest? So these are some of the questions we're thinking about. We could ask people, what name would you give your community? What is the common bond that creates your community's shared identity? What is the geographic area covered by your community? What governmental policies are important? How would keeping your community intact enhance the quality of your representation? And are there nearby areas that strengthen or weaken your community of interest? We did not have the population question here. I think a lot of people I don't think are going to know that, but we can ask anyway. But I also think that our mappers may be able to define that very clearly for us too. So, but again, we could add that to our list. My question here is,
Sue?
Is this what you need to know?
Sue, could you please screen share that list?
Oh, it didn't. Oops.
That's.
I must have lost my screen share. Let me go back again. Okay. Okay.
And while while the executive director is doing that, I would just like to highlight that the population estimate will be a feature of the mapping tools as well. So
Is it there now, or did my screen share just totally go away?
it is not here, Sue. You would need to click.
Okay, let me just go back out again and end it and start over screen sharing. It's like, I don't know what happened.
So to the questions if people are utilizing the mapping tool to draw their potential community of interest, or the community of interest they're advocating for, excuse me, that the tool would be able to provide that population estimate for their benefit and the commission's benefit.
Okay. All right, here we go again. Okay, now we have to, I'll have to get back to the right slide though. So let's just do this. Okay. I'm back to where I need to be. So the question is, are these the questions that you need answered? Certainly, I think every commenter should be encouraged to go to the public comment tool and put that geographic area on a map. I think that's really important, especially if they cannot fully describe, and it's really hard, I think, in words to describe the streets, unless you say my community of interest is a specific township or county. It's going to be hard for the commission to understand what that person who's speaking really wants to include in their area. So I would certainly encourage the public comment tool. Other questions, other things you need to know?
I'm sorry, I was on mute. Commissioner Clark, go ahead.
Yeah, in a previous webinar, and I can't remember who the speaker was, but they brought up the topic of having some type of a legal statement attached to the input to these things, so that we don't get people making up data for their own benefit. I don't, Julianne, you may want to comment on that.
So I think there was a suggestion to have people, as I recall it, that to attest that their public comment is truthful, or I forget the exact wording, but unfortunately that there would be no mechanism for us to validate where people were being truthful or dishonest in their public comment. People have the right to be dishonest and untruthful if they choose to be. Certainly, in the public comment tool, there's some other disclaimers that we've been discussing internally as staff with MDOS that would assist in that regard, particularly towards the mapping. But again, in verifying the emails and doing different things for security reasons. But again, we would not be able to mandate that people swear or take an oath or something like that they're being truthful.
Yeah, and I don't know how we would validate it anyways, because of all the volume and the time it would take to validate. Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to bring that up because that was a point that came from one of the webinars previously. I yield back.
Dustin, did you still have a comment?
I think it was answered because I was going to say what prevents like a group of 100 people in said township making something up saying this is what we believe in, but the majority of the people in the township are like, no, that's not true. This is just like one little sect of people that got together and they're angry with how we like to do things. So.
Okay. Any other comments? Julianne, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, and to build on that, I think the commissioner raises an excellent point. That's another wonderful function for the commission's transparency and its accessibility, both online and hopefully soon in person. that the larger public will hear the comments. The larger public will be able to provide feedback on the maps. So we really just want to encourage all Michiganders to become involved and help the commission in this process. So I think the transparency will be a great asset to the commission.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Rothorn.
Thanks. I think the idea of how do we create a process that might even address, I think, the concern that that Rhonda had brought up, which is like, how do we understand that there may be multiple interests, communities of interest who actually are vying for what that we will make the judgment. And I think if we can actually put it back on them, put it back into the public, and have people in the communities actually decide whether that they arbitrate among themselves, that we not the arbitrator. If we can make a process rather than a legal definition, if we can make a process that says, well, in order for us to actually verify that you are a community of interest, you have to, like, if we have some conflicts, then you have to be able to be willing to arbitrate. And arbitrate's the wrong word, that's too legal. But the idea that they would come back to the commission if there were one group within a township and the township was advocating for one thing and the smaller group was advocating within that township for a different thing, that they would try to figure it out together and come back to the commission with some sort of recommendation. Feels like I'll say a process driven definition rather than sort of a legal thing that I really appreciate. We have to get closer to a definition, but I feel like defining a process is different than defining a specific category or it's more dynamic. The process is more dynamic and the definition is kind of a static thing. And yeah, that's it.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. Sue, do you have any more slides after this?
I do have a few more. I'm
Okay.
almost done. I would just make a couple comments on that. And we're going to talk a little bit about a decision-making processes going forward. We'll do a segment on that at an upcoming meeting, so we can talk further about how you as a commission will decide to make your decisions. And I'm sure there'll be some tough ones. And then also to Commissioner Rothorn's comment about communities deciding, that's a whole part of the public comment process. Anybody can post a map or make a comment. But that also means that any other citizen can comment on that map or comment on the comment to say, I disagree, I agree, whatever the situation may be. So it's a live process, and it's going to be wonderful to have citizens of Michigan engaged for the very first time in the process. Any other questions you would add here? Last call. I've got population. Okay, I thought I'd just share some examples that could come forth as communities of interest. So an ethnic or racial group, a school district, I think that was mentioned this morning, agricultural group, an arts organization, a Native American tribe, a neighborhood association, a religious community, an economic zone, tourism area, outdoor recreation, historical, health system area, communities defined by natural features such as, river or mountains or shared watershed or lake shore, those kinds of things. So there's lots of ways that we're going to hear about communities of interest, and we will have to keep our constitutional description in mind, and then also the characteristics that we believe should guide the discussion. There are a few key issues. So we want to make sure we can explain the concept of a community of interest so citizens can understand and advocate for their community of interest, which they are a part of or where they live. We need to make sure that we're about the questions that we want to ask and learn about in the public testimony, which I think we've got a pretty good list there. And then lastly, to continually synthesize the findings and testimony from the public to utilize. So you will likely be taking some notes in public hearings. If you're hearing recurring themes in an area that you're in, you're going to want to have some notes and have those available when we start thinking about the mapping process to make sure that those comments have been included. I end with some recommendations. Again, I think we already covered the first two, the shared explanation, the key questions. We'll bring to you some considerations for group presentations. And then Tom Ivako has always lifted this up, and it's, I think, an important one to note that we need to be able to discern between better resource groups and others. So there may be well-resourced groups that come to the commission who are very vocal, but one quiet voice might also be just as important. So we have to be very careful about how we listen and who we listen to, and that we make sure that when we're collecting information about communities of interest, that they fit the description and they really are a group that have a common bond that would affect legislation and who represents them. So that would be the end of my comments. And I would take any additional questions you might have.
All right. Do we have any additional questions out there? All right. I'm not seeing any.
Okay.
All right. No additional feedback for you, Sue.
Hey, my bar is not coming down to stop the screen share. I'm trying.
It's not screen sharing anymore. So
did it go away?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're not seeing it.
All right,
so
I can see it. So it's like, okay, great.
It's done on our end.
I'm back to normal. Thank you.
Okay. So then my question would be, do you need anything from us at this point with respect to communities of interest, or were you just looking for the discussion? I just want to make sure you're not wanting a motion from us on something.
I was looking for discussion, and there seems to be consensus on moving forward. So I think we're fine.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. All right. We will move on to our next item on the agenda then, which is actually to take a break. And wow, we are almost perfectly on time for that break. So we are going to take a break right now. It's 2:34 and we will come back at 2:45. See you guys in about 10 minutes.
Can you guys still hear me?
Yes. Is that you, Anthony?
Yeah.
Yep, we can hear you. Anthony, are you back?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. And Sally, are you back yet? Okay. All right, good. All right. Looks like we have everybody, so we will reconvene. Next item on our agenda is the Communications and Outreach Report. Communications and Outreach Director Woods, please go ahead.
Thank you. Let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll be good to go. All right. Well, thank you so much, members of the commission. Appreciate your support. Our communications and outreach update. As you know, our goals for the communications and outreach plan is fairness, ensure fairness in the redistricting process. Some of the things that continues to come up when we're out speaking is, which has become standard in our talking points, is how the commission is selected, And so we basically, the illustration I like to use is like a random selection of commissioners. It's like a lottery. And so that's just something I continue to share over and over again, as well as you've seen in your talking points, that it's like a lottery. So just kind of want to share with you when how that's explained. I usually reference the first page of the website and scrolling all the way down as it relates to how many people participated and the breakdown. And then usually promote the composition of the commission. This refers to the 4 Democrats, the 4 Republicans, and the 4 unaffiliated that we called independents. I just kind of want you to know that this question keeps coming up with regards to that. And I think it comes up for a couple of reasons. One, geographical representation, in that no one's there from Kent County. That's become prevalent when I do presentations on the west side. And so just a way just to share how I talk about the fairness, and it's a random selection process, like a lottery, and just wanted you to know that. Awareness. We're trying with our public relations consultants to identify leadership at grassroots community organizations. This is not referring to the ones that like United Ways or stuff that is known statewide. You have neighborhood groups, community groups that are sometimes unique to local municipalities that might not cover across the state. We're trying to identify that so that we can promote and increase awareness across the state in every market, whether it's rural, urban, or suburban. Who are these different and unique community organizations and leaders in the communities that we might not know about? This month, as you know, we've worked with our statewide partners, League of Women Voters, Michigan Nonprofit Association. Yesterday, I attended the monthly tribal state meetings to get some support, and we're going to be working with the United Tribal Council of Michigan with Frank Edowashik, I'm sorry, with him. He's their executive director and leader, so really looking forward to working with him. Voters, not politicians. As you know, we just had a event last night, or I should say 2 nights ago, where we had Commissioners Dustin Witches, Rebecca Zatella, and Doug Clark that participated in that. So continuing to increase awareness and working with our statewide partners. And once again, if you're interested in being a part of the communications and outreach in your statewide group that has local affiliates or members, please give me a call. We meet every other Wednesday between 10 and 10:30, and would love to have you and assist us in getting our message out statewide. Transparency, really want to give a shout out to Nelson and Sarah with the MDOT staffs. We're in the process of revamping the website so it'll be more robust, more user-friendly, ways to find some things. Also want to give a shout out to Sally, who's was very instrumental in creating the presentation form so we can have better information when we go out and have you speak. They can fill that out and I can give that to you so you can see where you're going. So that was something that was important. Pushing back against the media to ensure accuracy and balance. Really want to thank Commissioner Steve Lett with regards to the MERS podcast that came out last week, and he responded back to it Monday. Quite a few inaccuracies in terms of their understanding of the commission, their understanding of the Constitution, and was just grateful that they reached out to us and had us give us a chance to tell our story. Incorporating, illustrating how we as a commission are following our rules, following the Constitution. You always want to link back to the transparency and cite examples. So we're trying to continue to incorporate that and illustrate that in our talking points. Lastly, with engagement, in terms of increasing engagement, we partnered with Communities First in Flint and Delta Sigma Theta Alumni Chapter in Detroit on town hall meetings. They want to continue to partner with us when having these virtual town hall meetings. And so we're planning on that. We're planning our first multimedia education campaign to increase awareness of the commission. Then we're identifying, as you know today, a video production services contractor for commercials and vignettes. And this is really, as I shared with you before in the interview, the work of Dr. Neil Fleming from the University of Australia, who talked about learning styles and how adults have 2 or more learning styles. It's called the VAXI model: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and conceptual. The video productions would really follow into that kinesthetic mode. And that's something that we're looking forward to sharing with you today. This leads me to our video production services. Background, commission approved soliciting a minimum of 3 informal bids to provide video production services to increase awareness and engagement in Michigan's new redistricting process. This process provides a cost range of $5,000 to $49,999.99. Bids were posted on the MICRC website and State Sigma site. We conducted outreach through referrals from bidders of the PR consultants that bid in the past. We received inquiries as well as reached out to video production firms. The evaluation process. Per the purchasing policy, MICRC and MDOT staff reviewed the bids for video production services. The criteria used to evaluate the bids consisted of the following: commercial timeline in terms of how long it would take them to shoot, edit, and put the video in production. The commercials were looked upon as 30 seconds. We're looking at using the commercials not just for television, but also for social media ads, and also to embed them as part of our presentations so we can utilize more learning styles. When we go out and present, we can also use these as 30 seconds to embed in our presentations. The vignette timeline was 1 to 3 minutes. This was more of like a story or to explain how to do public comments. We wanted to know the timeline to turn that around. Vendor experience. We were interested in knowing the experience that they've had in working with other companies, but particularly companies or organizations, I should say, nonprofit and government organizations where they could relate or identify with our needs. The principal's resume in terms of who's working on the project and the resumes of those who's working on the project, the hourly rate or pricing, budget allocation and other. Other consisted of responsiveness to our questions and utilizing their expertise to understand our needs. In other words, we were looking for companies that know their business, but could also help us to identify our best needs so that we can promote the redistricting process across the entire state of Michigan and making sure we have clarity where no one is left behind. Recommendation: we assessed 8 informal bids from Codebox Films, Cutters, Good Fruit, ImageWorks, Lambert, Message Makers, Nicolini Media, and Uno Dos. In going through the evaluation process, Good Fruit, Message Makers, and Uno Dos stood out based on their timeline, rate, expertise, and experience in working on similar video production services. Staff desires to reach out and negotiate deliverable options in terms of whether it's animated or whether it's interview, quantity in terms of how many commercials we can get or how many vignettes we can get, timelines, and cost for video production services with these 3 firms. These 3 firms being Good Fruit, Message Makers, and Uno Dos. As a result, the motion would be that we're seeking to have approved is to authorize MICRC staff to enter contract negotiations with Good Fruit, Message Makers, and Uno Dos not to exceed $49,999. The MICRC staff will bring a recommendation to authorize a contract for one of these vendors at our next meeting for approval on Thursday, April 29th. If there's any questions, Madam Chairperson, I can take them at this time.
Commissioner Orton, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Edward, I have a question. One of your slides showed the statewide partners that you're working with to get the word out. And then at the bottom, it said veterans groups or something like that. And I'm wondering, I didn't hear any detail about that. What veterans groups have you reached out to?
We have 3 veterans groups that were recommended by Commissioner Lang, and we're looking to share our communication materials and distribute our communication materials so that we can ensure veterans know about the redistricting process as well.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Lang.
2 questions. Have you reached out to the veterans groups yet?
Not yet, Commissioner Lang.
Not yet. Okay. And then on the proposals that you brought forth, I'm going to tell you, when you guys send me stuff, I look it over. And I spent 10 hours from yesterday and today looking them over. And honestly, I'm on board with one of your recommendations, and that's it. And that would be Good Fruit, based off from the financials that they sent as far as pricing, the work that they've done. I've looked at their videos, not only on their website, but also on YouTube that they've put out. I've also did an extensive search and found not one negative thing about them in any way, shape, and form. And if the other commissioners don't know, I would like to inform that one of the owners actually is an adult with disabilities. And I think it would speak volumes to this commission if we consider that when we look at the diversity of our commission, our staff. I think our contractors should have that same diversity. And I think a little bit of special consideration should be done to them. So I personally would throw my hat behind Good Fruit all the way. The other 2, honestly, me personally, I wasn't impressed with, but that's me personally.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Clark.
Yes, I'd like to support what Rhonda just said. I agree with her fully. I have a question for you, Edward. There's different types of videos and such that we're talking about here. What would preclude us from using one vendor for one type and another vendor for a different type, rather than stay consistent with one?
There would be really nothing that would preclude it with regards to if you saw one particular for commercials or one for vignettes. There's nothing. I mean, we could come back with that recommendation as well, if that's something that the commission would like us to look at, but there's nothing that would preclude us from doing that.
Would it make your job more difficult?
Not necessarily, to be honest with you.
Okay. Again, I just want to reiterate, I support what Rhonda just said. I took a look at the data that you had sent out, Edward, and I agree with her fully on that, and also with the individual with the disabilities. That I think that would be a welcome thing for the diversity of the group. So I yield back.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion, but Edward, I'm going to need you to throw that slide back up there so I read it right this time, so we don't have to redo motions again. So you can throw that last slide up there. So I would entertain a motion to authorize MICRC staff to enter into contract negotiations with Good Fruit Message Makers and Uno Deuce, is that how you say it? Not to exceed $449,999.99. And the MICRC staff will bring a recommendation to us based on those negotiations. Can I, is someone willing to move to that and we can vote on it?
So move.
Dustin Witches moved, and I see Commissioner Weiss is seconding. All in favor, please raise your hand to so indicate. So I see 1, 2, 3. Could you guys get your hands back up again? I'm just trying to count real quick. 1, 2, 3. So we've got 1, 5, 5. Okay, all opposed, same sign. 1, 2, 3. I feel like I'm missing people on my screen. There we go. Keep your hands up, please, guys. Julianne, did you count that? I'm seeing 5 opposed, but I think I was.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Madam Chair. I saw 5 opposed as
I saw
well.
5 opposed, but I didn't, I think I might have missed someone on the in favor. Did you get a tally on?
I have 7 in favor.
7 in favor, 5 opposed, so the motion carries. All right, there you go, motion, or there you go, Edward, go ahead and negotiate. All right.
Madam Chair, we need, because that vote was so close, because we're hiring consultants, we need 1 from each selection pool.
Okay.
And I believe that I'm double checking. We do not have one of the affiliate pools represented in that vote.
Okay, so the motion does not carry. So then what would we like to direct Edward to do, guys?
Well, my thought is, how about we ask Edward to start negotiations with Good Fruit instead of all 3.
Edward, could you weigh in on why you were asking to negotiate with all 3 instead of just 1?
What we were trying to do was go back and see how we could get the best deal for our buck. And so part of that would include what Commissioner Clark suggested, where we could possibly split it. If we liked one group for the commercial and one group for the vignette. It could be like, how much can we actually get and what is the quality? Like, for example, if we wanted to use the interview process for setting up commercials, that could be one way. If we wanted to use a graphic and animation process for setting up commercials, that could be another way, or to combine it. The idea at the end of the day is how can we get the best quality, because it's not about pricing, but the best quality for the price. Obviously, the staff agreed with Commissioner Lang's viewpoint with regards to Good Fruit, and that's why they're being brought forward. But at the same time, we are, at the end of the day, I'm hearing cost, I'm hearing quality, and we're acknowledging them as a great organization, but the other 2 also bring something to the table. And so we're trying to maximize our opportunities by asking them additional questions to see what we can do for the amount of money that we have assigned for this contract.
Okay, General Counsel Pastula, go ahead.
Right. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And just building on what Communication Director Woods has indicated, really what the evaluation team found was that it was a combination of the timing, the time frame in which they could propose the work, and also to gain additional clarity on what they were proposing and that cost and price breakdown. And then again, to try and negotiate and maximize the deliverables that we could get utilizing public funds. So it actually was, there was specific information that we wanted from all three vendors to bring back to the commission to make their decision was the goal, goals identified in the evaluation team meeting.
Okay, Commissioner Wishes.
And I don't see what the harm is in contract negotiations with more than one company, because if you only pick one, then all sense of competition basically goes out the window at that particular point. So they can, and then we'd have to basically spend another day saying, oh, well, can we actually go and get bids from these two production companies at that particular point? I mean, I get that, Good Food is a great company. I've also looked them up. I did it yesterday and impressed, but I still think that we shouldn't preclude anyone else from contract negotiations.
Okay, Commissioner Clark.
Excuse me. I agree with Anthony. I think we should focus in on the one that we're all comfortable with. I mean, we've taken a look at the data. We can still negotiate with one. Edward, question for you: how time critical is it that we select one and move forward with them?
We were prepared to select next week, so as long as we do it by next Thursday, we're fine.
But when do you envision utilizing them? How time?
Well, they would
critical is it?
start Monday, May 4th, or Monday. I'm sorry. Make sure
So it
I
is
use the right date. Monday, May 3rd.
So it is time critical then that we decide.
Right. That's why we wanted to make a decision, but we also wanted to make sure we were getting the best price.
Okay. Now I'd like to. I don't know if Anthony put the motion forward or just the idea forward.
Yeah.
I'd like to.
I was going to
Put the
say,
motion?
yep, Anthony, Commissioner Eid motioned to just negotiate with Good Fruit, and Commissioner Lang had seconded that. So we do already have a motion on the floor.
Oh, okay. It's already second. Okay.
Yep.
I was going to do
Madam-
that if it wasn't. Okay. I yield back.
Go ahead, General Counsel.
I retract.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor at this point by Commissioner Eid and seconded by Commissioner Lang to only negotiate with Good Fruit with respect to the video production. If you are in favor of that motion, please raise your hand to so indicate.
I call for a voice vote, please.
Yeah, let's do a voice vote on that one. Sally, can you help out with this one?
Hello, commissioners. All right. I will call your names in alphabetical order, starting with down the list as is outlined in your rules and procedures. So first, MC Rothhorn.
Yes, I'm in favor of the motion.
Rebecca Zatella.
No.
Janice Villette.
No.
Aaron Wagner.
Yes.
Richard Weiss.
No.
Dustin Witches.
No.
Doug Clark.
Yes.
Juanita Curry.
No.
Anthony Eid.
Yes.
Rhonda Lang.
Yes.
Steve Lett.
No.
Cynthia Orton.
Yes.
I have 5 yay, 4 nay, and the motion does not carry.
All right, so what do we want to do from here?
Madam Chair,
Yes,
may I make a suggestion?
Yes.
That the staff continue its due diligence activities and bring back the recommendation next week for the commission and provide additional information.
that sounds good to me. Any objections to doing that? Rhonda, are you saying
Could you
something?
say that again?
That Commissioner Lang, my statement was, given the outcome of the last vote, if the commission would like the evaluation team to continue its due diligence activities and bring back additional information next week for the commission's actions. That we don't enter, that we get the additional information without the negotiation piece and then bring that forward to the commission. So you could make the decision and with the additional info.
Before we do that, what was the vote on the last motion?
5
I
in
have-
favor, 7
6.
opposed.
I counted 6 in favor. Right?
I had 6 and 6. It was a tie. I had 6 and 6.
So the motion was 6 and 6, so it fails on not only the count, but also on the breakdown of the affiliate. So we had no independence, independence on the yes side, and we had
Yes,
no
we did.
Republicans.
We had Anthony as an independent.
Oh, excuse me, Rhonda. Thank you very much.
Sorry, just want to keep it straight.
Yes, no, I appreciate that detail. And yes, but the vote was a tie vote, so it does fail.
Yeah, it's still 6 to 6.
Mhm.
All right, so unless there are objections, go ahead, Anthony.
Well, I think we should.
You're kind of breaking up, Anthony. We're having a hard time understanding you.
What our general counsel brought up.
Try again, Anthony, now that you don't have your video on.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes. But you're back on mute again.
Yes. So I think that having our staff go and bring us more information could be a good idea, but then we're kind of just a week behind, on actually entering in with negotiations. So I'm just wondering if anyone feels strongly one way or another to get one of the 2 motions passed that we've been discussing.
Go ahead, Edward.
Yeah, I think I want to concur with our general counsel. I think if we can come back with some recommendations and also look at separating the commercial as well as the vignettes, it provides us with an opportunity to get some of the detailed information to be fiscally responsible. And it's not just price, it's the best quality product. But I think we can do that and still be on schedule to start on May 4. And so we will bring that information back because basically this motion has failed. And if any commissioner has an idea, suggestion or something, we're always available. I'm always available. So please, call and reach out would be great. And so I would appreciate that. But the commission has spoken and it's clear. So more than happy to come back and bring all this information and additional information so that you can take a look at and we can move forward.
Okay, thank you, Edward. All right, we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the legal counsel report from General Counsel Pastua.
Wonderful. Let me unmute. My report today thank you for the opportunity to provide it. We're going to be talking about the update on the petition to the Michigan Supreme Court. As you'll note, 4 documents were filed this Tuesday, April 20th, and circulated to the commissioners. We have first the petition for relief. Second, the brief in support of that petition. The third document was the exhibits to the brief. And our fourth document filed was the motion to expedite and request that the court give us consideration by August 1st of 2021. I'd like to note that all of these documents are available on the MICRC website. Scroll to meeting information and click on meeting material and archive. And all of those will be listed under today's date. The key points of our joint argument, again, in 2018, Michigan voters had indicated their strong preference that the Constitution be amended to shift duties for redistricting from the legislature to the MICRC. In pursuant to subsection 19 of the Constitution, the MICRC has exclusive authority to promulgate and adopt redistricting plans for the state. The Constitution sets forth the process the commission must follow, including specific ranked criteria as well as related deadlines. And under these current deadlines, the MICRC is required to adopt final plans on or before November 1st, with a requirement to publish proposed plans 45 days in advance of November 1st for public comment. That date would be September 17th. I'd like to highlight for the public here that the MICRC will be conducting a second round of 8 public hearings on the proposed plans during the 45-day public comment period. Going back to the petition, why does the MICRC need relief from these constitutional deadlines? So the census data, which we've spoken about quite frequently in our meetings, the census data for redistricting, known as the Public Law 94-171 data, or PL 94-171 data, should have been released to the states by April 1st. However, due to the COVID pandemic, the US Census Bureau will not be releasing this redistricting data to the states until September 30th. This is after the date by which the MICRC is required to publish proposed plans, which makes the compliance with the constitutionally imposed timeline impossible. Although the MICRC intends to use alternative data sources, including but not limited to the American Community Survey data, population data, as well as the legacy format data to be done line drawing work in advance of September 30th, but even this will not have a meaningful impact on the ability of the commission to meet the current deadline of November 1st. Yesterday, correspondence was received from the Census Bureau updating the legacy format data release date to August 16th. So we actually have a specific date for the first time attached to that release. In the past, it was a range of mid to late August, leaning towards the third week of August. And so now we have the date of August 16th as the anticipated release date. Given the estimated 7 to 10 day processing time, the data is expected to be available the last week in August, which without relief from the court would give the commission approximately 2 to 3 weeks to conduct its work and preclude the reconciliation of the legacy data with the PL 94 data on September 30th. I would also highlight the correspondence notes that if there's any indication the Census Bureau's schedule could change, they will again inform the public. But they did reiterate confidence in both the August 16th and September 30th dates. So this delay in census data is what necessitates the MICRC as well as the Secretary of State's to petition the court down to the specific relief that the key points for our requested relief is we were requesting the court enter an order directing that the commission propose and publish redistricting plans 72 days from receiving the census data on September 30th. This would shift the September 17th deadline to December 11th. Second, to adopt final plans no later than 45 days after December 11th. This would shift the November 1st deadline to January 25th of 2022. Thirdly, that if the census data is transmitted after September 30th, the deadlines would shift to accommodate that delay. And lastly, if the PL 94 data is transmitted in advance of September 30th, the MICRC will make every effort to expedite the process and adopt a final plan by corresponding numbers of days. Again, all of these dates correspond with formal actions taken by the commission to guide our work. And in closing, I would again like to acknowledge the partnership and the efforts of MDOS as well as the AG's office in this matter. Rather than waiting for a mandamus action or being on opposing sides of a mandamus action, the commission and the secretary elected to proceed forward together and hopefully advance the most compelling argument possible for the relief requested. Thank you, and I can answer any questions on that very large set of documents that I forwarded over.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions for General Counsel? Go ahead, Commissioner Eid.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Julianne, for following the report. I was just wondering if there's any timeline.
We're having problems with your audio again. Anthony, I'm sorry. It sort of sounds like you're in an echo chamber.
And what I heard, Madam Chair, was any indication on the timeline is okay. So again, let me reiterate that we have a request for relief that the court has the discretion to take up and opine on and move forward with. And the motion to expedite, again, really uplifts the timing constraints with the situation that the commission is in due to the census data delay. So we have requested that the court give us consideration or by August 1st. So that would be the date that we would hope to know something should the court elect to take up the matter.
Thank you very much for getting that filed for us. Go ahead, Commissioner Orton.
So Julianne, just a question. What if they don't take it up? Like, what happens? Obviously, we can't make the date that we have to. So what happens?
So it's an excellent question as well, Commissioner Orton. So I think the commission has been very, very consistent and very vocal in its forward progress towards meeting its constitutional duties. The work of the commission is not slowing down due to the census delay. We push forward. Again, if we request relief and it is not granted, we would make every effort to meet the constitutional deadline, but in the reality of it just being a couple of weeks time to do so, that the commission I would recommend the commission adopt plans or propose plans as close to those deadlines and adopt plans as close to those deadlines as possible. But again, that would open us up to other legal challenges if we do not have relief directly from the court. But again, the work should continue, the focus should continue, which is exactly what the MICRC is doing. So status quo.
All right. Any other comments? Okay. Thank you very much, General Counsel Pastula.
Thank
All
you.
right.
And one last, I think
Yep, go ahead.
I highlighted when we were discussing whether to file a petition or the pros and cons for proactive relief versus waiting for a mandamus action. And I believe one of the things that I highlighted at that time with the proactive relief, we're attempting to resolve the problem before it becomes a problem. Again, the August 1st date would give us an answer prior to September 17th. But in the event that we do not get relief, which is a possibility, that we would be able to point to our proactive actions as that we initially tried to get relief and move that area forward. So again, I believe the commission and the secretary are best positioned in the course of action that has been taken. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Moving on to our next agenda item is future meetings and agenda items. Any comments or concerns, things we want added to the agenda in the future? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to announcements. Executive Director Hammersmith, do we have any announcements that need to be made?
I wanted to back up. I didn't get my hand up or my mute off quickly enough. I just want to let you know that we're planning on a public hearing dry run next week. So
Okay.
commissioners will understand processes, who's doing what activities that MDOS will be in charge of, MDOS staff as in their role as secretary to the commission, what roles your staff, your MICRC staff will play, scripts, those kinds of things. So just how the public hearings will proceed. And then as for unfinished business, we'll also talk about the videographer contract. So those were the two main agenda items I have.
Okay. Any other comments, concerns, announcements? Go ahead, Erin.
I wanted to ask Edward a question. Edward, would it be possible to get a comprehensive list of the groups that you have reached out to? And then would it also be possible to come up with a handout that those groups can pass out at meetings, informing them of the MICRC and our process?
You're on mute.
Talk about our statewide groups. Sure, I can do that. And then in terms of handouts, our PR consultants are going to be working on that so that we can pass those out. They're basically called kicker cards, but we will have those available so that we can distribute those. So yes, more than happy to share the list. Does that
All
answer your
right.
question? I'm sorry.
It does. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Any other announcements, comments, questions before we sign out for the day? All right. Seeing none, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Lett, seconded by Commissioner Witches. All in favor, please raise your hand to so indicate. All opposed, same sign. The motion carries. We are adjourned at 3:27. Thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you next week.